Imagine this. The Red Bull garage is quiet. The man who once ruled it with an iron smile is gone. Christian Horner, the most divisive figure in modern Formula One, has exited the paddock. And suddenly, Zak Brown is talking. Loud, clear, and for the first time in a long time, he's smiling. But what's he smiling about? Well, apparently F1 just feels better now. More open, less tense, less toxic. In his words, the atmosphere has improved. Is that a shot fired or a truth no one else had the guts to say? Let's unravel this because this goes way deeper than a simple comment. This is the behind-the-scenes drama you never saw on Drive to Survive. You see, Zak Brown and Christian Horner, they've never been best mates, not even close. For years, they've traded digs through interviews, thinly veiled sarcasm, and those classic, we're smiling but we're fuming moments during press conferences. Horner, the calculated politician of F1. Brown, the business-savvy disruptor who's not afraid to stir the pot. It all came to a head during the cost cap controversy in 2021. Zak accused Red Bull of cheating. Horner called it hugely defamatory. They nearly came to blows, not with fists, but with press releases and Paddock tension so thick you could slice it with a front wing. So when Horner exited, you just knew Zak wouldn't stay silent. Let's stop pretending for a second. Christian Horner didn't leave Red Bull. He didn't retire. He wasn't promoted. He wasn't even phased out quietly like most Paddock veterans. He was pushed out, hard, fast, and under a spotlight so blinding, even Red Bull's PR machine couldn't spin it clean. This was not your typical F1 team boss exit. This was messy. This was scandalous. This was Red Bull's dark side finally cracking under the weight of its own ego. Now remember, Christian Horner had been running the Red Bull ship since 2005. That's nearly 2 full decades of dominance, controversy, politics, and control. He was there before Max, before Drive to Survive, before the hybrid era even existed, and in that time he became untouchable. The man could walk into any FIA meeting, raise one eyebrow, and people would sit up straighter. But then, something changed. It started with whispers, quiet ones, behind closed doors, behind paddock curtains, behind the sunglasses and stage smiles. Talk of an internal investigation, of HR complaints, of alleged behavioral issues. Nothing official, no press release, just tension. At first, fans didn't know what to think. Was it real? Was it media hype? Was it just another Red Bull power play? But then, the rumors didn't fade. They got louder. Sponsors started asking questions. Journalists, the real ones, not the sugar-coated F1 media types, started poking around. Suddenly, people who'd never dared speak about Christian Horner were hinting at something more serious. And through it all, Horner kept showing up to races like nothing was wrong. Suit pressed, grin wide, media trained to the teeth. But the mask, it was slipping. Every press conference felt colder. Every interview looked tenser. Every pit wall shot during a race showed a man who wasn't enjoying the victory anymore. He was just holding on to control, because Horner wasn't just fighting to clear his name. He was fighting to keep his empire from collapsing. And that empire, it was built on layers. Layers of dominance, yes, but also layers of silence. Layers of politics. Layers of loyalty built not on friendship, but fear. He wasn't just the boss of Red Bull Racing. He was Red Bull Racing. So when it all finally boiled over, when the official decision came down, it wasn't a resignation. It wasn't a press conference with thank yous and teary farewells. It was a vanishing act. One day he was there, the next gone. No closure, no goodbye, no Netflix episode, just an empty seat on the pit wall. And the craziest part? Nobody seemed shocked, because deep down, the paddock knew this had been coming. Maybe not this year, maybe not this way, but eventually, the weight of everything Christian Horner had been and everything he'd refused to let go of was going to bury him. And you could see the shift immediately. The Red Bull garage looked different, quieter. Mechanics were talking again, Drivers from other teams were walking past with less tension in their shoulders. It was like the whole paddock just exhaled, and into that space, into that strange, silent void, walked Zak Brown. Casual, confident, half grinning like he already knew what the headlines were going to say. He didn't even need to say Horner's name. All he had to say was this: the atmosphere has improved. And just like that, he mic dropped. That wasn't a press comment. That wasn't diplomacy. That was a punch in the ribs aimed right at Horner's legacy. Zak Brown didn't need to write a think piece. He didn't need to dig through legal filings. All he had to do was show up, feel the shift, and say what everyone else was too scared to admit. Formula One is better without the shadow of Christian Horner looming over every paddock corner. Boom. And whether you loved Horner or loathed him, you couldn't deny one thing. Zak Brown just said what the whole sport had been thinking for years, but couldn't say out loud. Then, Zak Brown stepped up to the mic. And when he did, oh boy, he didn't name names, but he didn't need to. The environment in the paddock feels lighter, more professional, healthier. Boom. You don't need to be an F1 insider to read between those lines. That was a direct response to the power vacuum Horner left behind, and a not-so-subtle suggestion that maybe, just maybe, the drama wasn't just on the track. This was Brown, pulling back the curtain and letting us glimpse what life was really like under the Horner regime. Tense, cutthroat, maybe even toxic. Let's be real for a second. The paddock? It's not just a bunch of garages, some pit walls, and a VIP lounge with overpriced espresso. It's a pressure cooker, a world built on smiles for the cameras and whispers behind closed doors. Everyone's shaking hands on camera and stabbing each other in the back office. And for years, Christian Horner knew how to play that game better than anyone. He didn't just control Red Bull, he controlled the narrative. He knew how to spin a controversy, how to stir tension without looking like the villain, how to control the mood in the paddock like a conductor leading an orchestra of politics, media, and ego. And let's not pretend the other team bosses didn't feel it, because when Horner walked through the paddock, people got quiet. When Horner made eye contact, some flinched. He had that aura, that presence, that reputation of, you don't mess with me unless you're ready for war. But after he was gone, everything changed, literally, almost overnight. The paddock felt different, the kind of different you can't fake. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud, but it was palpable. You could feel the shift, like someone opened a window after years of stale air. Mechanics, team members, even journalists. People started acting normal again, not walking on eggshells, not glancing over their shoulder every 5 seconds. The Red Bull garage, usually locked down tighter than a secret bunker, started to look relaxed. Not messy, just human. And the paddock as a whole suddenly felt lighter. That's what Zak Brown picked up on. That's what he called out. But what he said wasn't just about Horner. It was about what F1 had become while Horner was running the show. See, this sport runs on control, on dominance, on building empires. But somewhere along the way, that culture turned cold, rigid, hostile, corporate to the core. Media briefings were sanitized. Press conferences were rehearsed. Drivers were afraid to speak their minds. Team bosses played politics more than they played strategy. And under the surface, real tension. People were burned out, exhausted, constantly calculating every move. That was the culture that had been building for years. And whether people admit it or not, a lot of that started at the top of the Red Bull pyramid, because Horner didn't just play the game, he designed it. And for years, everyone else had to adapt or get left behind. But now that he's gone, it's like the paddock finally gets to breathe. Zak Brown wasn't just talking about improved atmosphere in a polite PR way. He was calling it out. He was saying, this is what the sport is supposed to feel like. This is what it's like when fear doesn't run the room. And the crazy part? Nobody rushed to defend Horner. Nobody said Zak was wrong. Nobody pulled him aside and told him to tone it down, because they felt it too. Even people who used to align with Red Bull, they didn't push back. Because deep down they all knew that kind of dominance, that kind of behind-the-scenes pressure, it takes a toll, not just on rivals, but on their own people. People stopped enjoying the races. People started treating every weekend like a war zone. So when Zak said what he said, he wasn't just speaking his truth, he was speaking everyone's truth. The one no one had dared say out loud until the shadow was gone. Let's not pretend this is all sunshine and rainbows. Zak and Horner have always represented two visions of Formula One. Horner, old guard, power games. Keep the media close, but never too close. Control the message. Brown, modern face, Netflix-friendly, transparent. A bit chaotic, sure, but honest. This rivalry wasn't just personal, it was philosophical. So when Horner left, it wasn't just about Red Bull, it was about which vision of F1 would dominate next. And Zak's side, it's winning, for now. But will it last? Social media exploded after Brown's comments. Zak Brown is saying what everyone's thinking. F1 actually feels fun again. Horner was a genius, but he sucked the life out of the sport. Even some former drivers spoke up. Jenson Button called it a new era of openness. David Coulthard said the tension in the paddock had noticeably cooled. But not everyone agrees. Some say F1 needs villains like Horner, that without him it's too safe, too friendly, too Netflix. So, now what? Christian Horner's gone. The seat's cold, the drama's still warm, and Formula One's looking around like, who's running the show now? Because love him or hate him, Horner was more than just a team boss. He was the dominant force, the guy always in the room, even when he wasn't physically there. And now, there's a massive vacuum. And you know what F1 does with vacuums. It fills them. Fast. Let's be honest, Toto Wolff? Yeah, he's powerful, but he's not chasing headlines. He plays quiet power. Doesn't need the drama. He's already won. Fred Vassar? Cool, calm, Ferrari. But he's not stepping into that spotlight. He's a racer, not a politician. Andrea Stella? Genius. But he's not that guy. Doesn't want the mic, wants the stopwatch. But Zak Brown? He's different. He's loud. He's honest. He says what the rest of the paddock only thinks. He's not just running McLaren, he's running the conversation. And now that Horner's gone, it's Zak's voice getting louder. He's not trying to be Horner 2.0. He's carving out his own lane, modern, transparent, media savvy. But that spotlight, it burns. If McLaren slips, if Zak talks too much, that same paddock will turn on him just as fast. So the real question isn't, will Zak take over? It's, can he handle the heat? Because in Formula One, the climb is fast, but the fall is faster. F1 without Christian Horner feels different. Less political, more transparent, maybe even more fun. But the question is, was Horner the problem or just a symptom of a deeper issue in F1's leadership culture? And Zak Brown? He's finally got the mic and the stage. But can he keep the atmosphere light while the competition heats up? One thing's for sure, Formula One's new era isn't being written in a boardroom. It's being lived every weekend, every garage, every press conference. And Zak Brown? He's right in the middle of it. If you found this just as wild as we did, hit that like button and subscribe. Because this new F1 era, it's only getting started. And trust me, we're just getting warmed up.